This is an important topic that I wanted to discuss with us. عشان كده we need to be aware. I ask nobody to leave because this is something that's on my heart for some time, so we need to discuss it. Right now, recently, there been something that's going on in our high schools and colleges and middle schools. It's called vaping or juuling, or electronic cigarettes. Basically, the kids, they go and buy a cigarette, but now it has a different form, okay? And this have increased significantly within our youth. In America, just some statistics for you, just 1 in 4 high schoolers have vaped in the last week alone. 1 in 4 high schoolers have vaped in the last week alone. Actually, if you look, by the way, in history, in the 1900s, people have advertised heroin as a substitute for morphine initially when it came, and people used to buy it off the shelf. Off the shelf. And for 30 years, by the way, we had cocaine as an ingredient of Coca-Cola. So whenever something is new, a lot of times we don't know much about it. But once we know, we're very worried what happened throughout the years when we were in dark. So we don't know much about vaping, but all the initial studies show that it is extremely harmful. Let me tell you something, the amount of nicotine that a child can pack into that joule, it's equivalent sometime of 200 cigarettes. And actually one of the youth shared with me an article on NBC right now. They are trying to, some youth are seeking rehab for juuling. Because sometimes the joule or the e-cigarette looks kind of nice, looks like a flash drive. So you think it's part of the electronics of the child. So you have to be extremely careful, because this is one of the gateway drugs for marijuana, for coke, for other drugs. And I'm going to tell you something. Before, in the old days, when somebody smokes a cigarette, he knows he's a smoker. And it will take him a long time to step it up and start smoking marijuana, for example. Right now, all what he has to do, he has to change the cartridge that he smokes the vape in, that has one with marijuana. So it doesn't even feel the switch. It doesn't feel the pain. It's like you using your credit card. You don't feel how much you're spending. This is exactly what's happening with juuling. And the problem is that even scientists found that even the joules that they advertise them that do not have nicotine, they do have nicotine. Some scientists have found that there's over 100 chemicals in this joule that people smoke. And unfortunately, right now, the social pressure in our kids is significant. Sometimes even in school bus, they will pass around the vape one by one, asking our kids to smoke. So I want all of us to be careful. This is a big issue, because it will open the way for people to smoke other kind of drugs, marijuana and coke and all this stuff. It will open the way for it for sure. And the research that came out so far, we see a lot of chemicals in the vape that causes cancer, that causes lung diseases. The list goes on and on. And as a matter of fact, the FDA is auditing them right now, this year, because they did not understand the significance of how this of the joule and how much it grew. And there are dealers in schools, high school, middle school, and they're selling to our kids. So I'll tell you a few things. Let's all keep in our minds, okay? When you start seeing your kid lying and deceiving too much, be careful. When you start seeing him not doing very well in school and grades are dropping, be careful. When you start seeing his commitment level is dropping, be careful. When you start seeing that he's isolating himself too much, be careful. Okay, because these things, when they are caught at the early stage, they're much easy to manage. Whenever we let them go for a long time, now we have to deal with a high level of addiction that requires a lot of work. So, by the way, this is a real problem. And the chances are 1 in every 5 youth have smoked it last week alone. Chances are 1 in every 5 youth have smoked it. This is junior high, high school, college. Some parents come and tell me, my son doesn't smoke cigarettes, but he just smokes the vape. As if the vape, it's not a big deal. It's worse than cigarettes. It's worse than cigarettes. Because you can pack so much nicotine inside. And now we have seen people who are struggling to stop it. So let's all keep our eyes open and let's educate our children. There's a lot of resources available. And if you want some, I'm going to send a resource to the congregation as well. But there's a lot of resources available. But I just want the parents to be aware, because they can look like as an electronic in the room. And a lot of them comes in different flavors. So you can go to the room and you smell an apple flavor or strawberry flavor. Okay, then that also a warning that there's something going on. Okay, it's not he's eating fruits. All right, so we have to be careful because these things are real and happening. And we have to be careful because our children, a lot of times under pressure, a lot of time not knowing how to manage stress. The statistics say 65% are doing vaping for pleasure and de-stressing. 12% only are doing it to stop smoking, because vaping you can control the level of nicotine, so sometimes people take it gradually. But only 12% are using it to stop smoking. The big percentage is either to experiment or to actually for enjoyment and distress. So let's all keep our eyes open. May God protect our children, and we need to pray for our all societies, because every era the evil takes a different form. Every era the evil takes a different form. I'm just gonna